Welcome back, network partners. I'm Kathleen Murphy, a legislative policy analyst with Best Friends, and we have been saving our grassroots department webinar pieces for you until this part of the series. So I'm really excited to be having you joined with our grassroots colleagues. And so Keiko, will you start with introducing yourself, and then we'll go to you, Carol.
Sure. My name is Keiko Burkhan. You may have seen me in an earlier part of the series, but I'm the digital organizing manager here with Best Friends. I've been here for about over a year now, so happy to be here and tell you all about the grassroots pieces that you need to know.
Awesome. And I'm Carol Reyes. I've been with Best Friends for 6 years, in animal welfare for a little bit over 10 years and have had held many different roles, but in more recent years have had roles that were more community based. So now I'm the manager of grassroots advocacy, and I'm super excited to have you guys join us.
Great, thank you. And again, this one is If You Build It, They Will Come, Growing Your Base the Grassroots Way. And this one is going to be a little bit different than our other ones. And I'm going to let the ladies take over with a presentation. So Keiko, the webinar is yours.
Are you muted, Keiko?
Perfect. All right, so we went over introductions already, but we figured that we would tell you a little bit about our pets since we haven't gone over that a little bit. I've got 3 cats, Friday, Cannoli, and Q, and 1 dog, Ember.
Oh, and then I have 4 cats, and here you'll see one of them. Her name's Susie. Had them for years. Very much cat lady.
Perfect. All right. I'm going to go ahead and get into the meat of this program, and that is, how can you build your base to get the changes that you need in your community done? Because you do need a base of supporters to be able to really amplify your message and also ensure that, the community is on board with whatever change that you're proposing. So let's talk about exploring your options here, because there are lots of ways to do this online, especially since you can find pretty much anyone online these days. So first off, I do want to mention a platform that we have that is available free to you as network partners to be able to use, and that is action.bestfriends.org. I'll dig into that a little bit more later. But of course, we also have social media. That's your various platforms from Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. There's new ones popping up every day now, but those are going to be very important for building your base as well. Also important to remember your local media. A lot of local newspapers and local media have their own online presence that sometimes you might be able to utilize to get something written up and put into their website so that it can reach new eyes. And of course, we also have your basics. Email. Email is, bread and butter of any sort of organization, and email will always be a good way to communicate out with your base. And then, of course, text messaging. This is something that I encourage organizations, network partners, or, organizations to really use a text messaging service for urgent requests only. So text messaging is a really good way to reach people, but you also want to make sure that they stay subscribed to your text messages. So use that sparingly and for urgent situations only. Now to dig into petitions a little bit, this is a really, really great starting point for building your base around something that needs to change so that you're able to save more lives in your community. Petitions are a great way to collect more people. In fact, I would say petitions, one of the top purposes of a petition is to acquire new people to your cause, to be aware of your shelter, of what your shelter needs, things like that. I would say petitions are a really good way of doing that, because not only are you sharing this petition out, but once you start getting people to sign the petition, other people, other signatories will start sharing it and getting it out into the world as well. And of course, we'll get into how to create an effective petition, because that can really make or break your effort. So, petitions. Just going to go real brief into this. If you ever need more help, we'll share our contact information with you at the end of this so that you can always reach out to us for help with petitions. But again, on that action.bestfriends.org website, you can create petitions, and they're very, very easy to get put together using our platform, which again is free for you as a network partner to use. First off, you want to identify the change that you need in your community and who is responsible for making that change. Hopefully, the other parts of this series will help you identify those pieces, but then you need to, implement your action, your plan to make this change. So with petitions, you want to address them to the person, the elected official, the body of government, whatever is responsible for making that decision, you want to have this petition addressed to them. And then, of course, you want a nice, clear title, whether it is a little eye-catching or, is very basic in this is what I need to happen, and, that's what you're petitioning for. I also recommend including your location in the title of your petition, as well as in the description. You really need to identify where you are, because if you're just creating a petition and there's not that location detail, it's going to be not as effective, because you'll have other people from different locations signing it, as well as they won't really understand that this is a change that needs to happen in the local community. So this is how you're going to collect people. People can Google it, people can see it on our website, and they want to know where this petition is taking place. And then let's talk about the description, the written component of the petition that really serves the purpose of trying to get people to sign your petition, of course. So you want to make it personal and community friendly. So you want to be able to add that contextual information about your community and talk about why this change is needed and why it's important that this change occurs. And you also need to clearly identify what actions need to happen to make this change. It's also really good to include data points. Anytime you can include research studies, data, things to illustrate your point as to why this change is needed, that's going to be really powerful for people as well as legislators. And then, of course, it's always helpful if other people have done this change or other communities have done this. If you're able to cite other communities that have had successful changes that you're trying to make in your own community, this is really helpful because it shows people that you're not the first person or the first shelter to be trying to implement this program, and it leaves a bunch of questions for everyone as to the effectiveness of said program. So again, these are some good tips for creating a great description to make an effective petition. And then, of course, you want to be able to keep your supporters and your advocates organized. So find a way to collect your core supporters, the people that are signing those petitions, the people that are taking action on behalf of the shelter. Great ways to do this are either through our action.bestfriends.org, where you can create a group. Again, free to you to use. And of course, within that group, you are able to email your members. You can create events with RSVP lists, including volunteer shifts. You can also, of course, easily post updates to the group. And then, of course, your group members can chat amongst themselves in this group. But another option, of course, is to consider Facebook groups or other kind of virtual platforms where you can collect people, where they can chat with each other, where they can build kind of a community around your shelter and around the changes that you're trying to make. All right, so with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass it to Carol to talk about the on-the-ground community work.
Awesome. Okay, awesome. Thank you I had to unmute real quick. So thank you so much, Keiko. Keiko did a wonderful job covering like the digital side of grassroots advocacy, by demonstrating like what you can do and how you can utilize the digital space to create online petitions, efforts, campaigns, and ultimately just gather community support for your goal. I'll be covering the people side and like the relationship building side of things. So what is grassroots? Grassroots, for those that might not be familiar with the term, is a movement that uses the people in a given community as the basis for political, social, or economic movement. It's associated with bottom up rather than top down. And something that I'll use interchangeably throughout the rest of my presentation is grassroots advocacy and community advocacy. They both mean the same thing. And really it's in like the word itself. You think of a root of a grass, right? Stem. The community is that root right there, and really at the heart of what we do. Why community matters. I think this question doesn't need a lot of explaining. I think you as network partners already know that working in animal welfare is really, although we work a lot, with animals, it's very people facing. Just like any other industry, we work with a ton of people. You have like your immediate team. If you have a foster program, you have fosters, you have volunteers. You're surrounded by people in all aspects of your work when it comes to helping the animals. And again, and something that you hear pretty often, and most likely it's not the first time that you'll hear it here, but in other presentations, is that we need people to save animals. That's a fact through and through. And you cannot save animals without people and relationship building. Without people, but relationship building is truly key to reaching your life-saving goals. And another thing about grassroots advocacy, before we go on to that slide, but we can still stay there, is that it's just another layer of community engagement that's particularly imperative if you need local support to introduce or amend an ordinance or a policy that will help your mission in reaching life-saving goals. Cool, awesome. Now we're in this one. So in order to really start, or before you start a movement, or so now that you've created an effort, the next step is gathering community support. And again, another area where you must like involve your community. Before you do that though, it's really important to practice like what we put together as like really important steps to help you build relationships thoughtfully and like with intention in order to like reach more people. Tapping into your empathy. This is like by far like the first thing that we talk about when it comes to building relationships with people and making new connections. Everyone starts their animal welfare journey at different points of their lives. I've been in animal welfare or in my career for about 10 years, and what I knew before then was nothing that I knew now. And that also goes to that also applies to like everyone that's outside of animal welfare too, that hasn't yet been brought along or been invited or been involved in this journey. So empathy first is always tapping into your empathy is always good to start off with, because people are at different aspects of their animal welfare journey life. Another thing that we often say as well here when it comes to building relationships is meeting people where they are at. And that means like being and that along with the next step of being inclusive really go hand in hand. I've met people who've needed support for their pets but didn't have access to that information. It's basic information yet essential information to know where your shelter is located, where your organization is located, where they can find these resources for themselves as pet owners and for their pets. It's not an uncommon situation. It's a common occurrence that still happens to this day that can be tied back to lack of access to essential and life-saving information. And then the last step here is starting small, build momentum. Like you don't have to take huge leaps in order to start connecting with people. It's really important now more than ever, like to think about growing your presence among your community. and like starting small efforts just within like your network first can go a long way. And something that I'll touch on a little bit more in the next slide in a little bit. But what that looks like, it's getting the information about your shelter or your organization out in both digital and physical spaces. So that could be social media, Facebook, Instagram, printing out flyers and placing them like in public locations like the library, community boards, businesses all around. It's about having that information accessible by translating in languages that reflect of those in the community. It's really simple, small things like that will really go a long way. We can go on to the next slide. And here are just a couple of more examples of like meeting people where they're at. And again, how you don't have to take huge leaps to start making new connections in your community and maybe even beyond. You can start with your friends, your inner circle, your family, and little by little start expanding to outside of your circle. Start going around like your neighborhoods, apartment complexes, expand to local businesses. I mentioned, public locations like the library, pet stores, mom and pop shops, like, even though these, you'll find businesses that are not, related or might not sell pet products or products for your pets, but rest assured, like the people that go to those businesses most likely will have a pet, so that that information is going to get to them, even if you might not immediately think that it's going to reach anyone that could use the help. And another thing is like social and civil organizations. Don't just look just within animal welfare bubble or space. Look beyond and connecting with organizations that provide like mental health services, social services. Again, they might be providing specific services to their community in a way, but those members will also most likely will have pets and stuff. So it's easy to forget, but good rule, just a good reminder to just look beyond animal welfare. And then next slide. And then to really all tie everything that both Keiko and I shared, while animals are really at the heart of life-saving, people really are the solution, and not only working towards life-saving, but creating a system where everyone involved, from advocates and volunteers and fosters, supporters, donors, anyone with pets, all feel welcome and supported. This is especially true to yourself and your team, your shelter, your organization, everyone that makes that is a part of that. You guys are key. So this all definitely includes you as well. And it's important to really lean into what we consider the building blocks to relationship building. We mentioned empathy first, that's definitely one. And there's a lot more to this list, but just like for the sake of space and time, like we've just consolidated every, like the more important pieces to relationship building. Like compassion and kindness, authenticity, transparency, communication, respect. You will need all of these to create like those safe and welcoming spaces. And once you set that kind of space, you'll start to take notice that more, you are going to be connecting to more people are going to be coming to you. Your shelter and like your organization like are the foundational piece to this puzzle that is pet life-saving and community advocacy. So just as we can't do the work without people, like the people variable in this equation, like the work towards progressive life-saving efforts cannot be done without you being a part of that as well. So I hope that that you're a really huge part to this overall effort. here. And I know, you know, it's really hard to remind ourselves that, because like we're in the weeds of it, we're in the thick of it, and you as network partners might not necessarily get a lot of praise for the hard work that you guys do and the dedication and like the hardships that you go through and not acknowledge. But please know that you guys are a huge piece to this, and like we cannot do this without you as well. So thank you guys so much. And I know this was just like a little teaser of what we normally cover in a 1 hour session and stuff, but hopefully you were able to get a lot of information. If you have any questions, we would be really happy to answer any of them. Keiko, myself, and we have a few other members of that make up the grassroots team. We're here for you guys. We're here to help you, to guide you along the way, to gather community support for whatever effort that you're looking into to start. So if you have any questions, send it our way. Our email is action2025@bestfriends.org.
Thank you so much. And I think clearly my dog here heard y'all talking about your cats and got a little jealous. This is his first appearance on our webinar series. He's clearly very interested in grassroots, and he appreciates it just as we do. So network partners, thank you for joining us again today with our grassroots presentation, and we will see you on our next webinar. Thank you so much.